Greetings, everybody. Reggie Middleton once again with my promised Q&A and AMA, as question and answer and ask me anything videos. This time I want to go over what I perceive to be a misconception with Veritasium and VERI. Luckily, we've been able to execute relatively well, and Veritasium is gaining traction. We have our private beta, which is actually coming along very, very well. That's for, I know, major issues with the beta. UI issues and, typos, labeling, etc. And Happy New Year. And thus far, knock on wood, we're still on track for a public beta release. I don't know if it's going to be next year. Not next year, this week, but I hope so. Okay, so let's get into the actual topic at hand. First of all, can everybody hear me? Because that's one guy said there's no audio. Can you hear me? Give me a yes or no in the messages. Yes, sir. Okay, so let's go over number one. I'll take a look at the demographic of the large purchasers of Veritasium. We're going to call these our customers, okay? This is a private spreadsheet, private analysis that was done, okay, of the transactions early on. This is the number 2 holder in Veritasium in terms of wallet. Now, we're not going to identify these by entities or by companies or people because their wallets are pseudonymous. But I want to take a look at the behavior because I don't want VERI to be considered a speculation vehicle, okay, or a trading vehicle or an investment vehicle. We never ever said it was any of these, and we always espouse this to be a utility for the introduction and use of peer-to-peer capital markets. Okay, so this is the largest customer wallet. Okay, hard to see the spreadsheet. Okay, I can understand that. So take a look, do what you can. This is the largest customer wallet. Okay, you can see where they have purchased 135,440.15 tokens. Right, these are the token values. Okay, there's a date here. Okay, they hold 0.14% of VERI's total holdings. Okay, they started purchasing on May 6th. Okay, token value at $1.60. Okay, and all their purchases were $1.60 up until June 30th, 2017, where they paid $79.39 per token. Okay, they had a total cost all in of $5.178 million, just under $5.2 million. Okay, Veritasium has increased in price since then to about $380, which gives them roughly $52 million. Okay, out of $52 million in token value, out of the $5.2 million that they put in. Okay, now that's a gain of 902%. Okay, keep this in mind. Do not jump to conclusions. I want everybody to listen to my entire video. Please don't listen to just the first or the second half. Okay, now the second token holder has made many more transactions. Okay, and they've been buying tokens from May 24th with $1.60 cost. And they have been purchasing a lot, many transactions up until December 26th, the day after Christmas. Okay, let's take a look what these numbers look like. They basically spent just under $1.3 million with current inventory value of about $27 million. Okay, go on to the third holder. You see similar stories. Okay. 5.8 million, okay, spent with about 19 million, with about $15 million. What that token holder did do is they sold some for whatever reason. They could have sold it in redemption to us for services and products. They could have sold it simply because they were looking for the tokens. Who knows what the reason is? But in general, you get to see some pretty significant numbers. Okay, yeah, 22,135% difference. These are token holders that came in during our initial sales, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, 871%, 280%, 2,800%, 14,484%, et cetera. So when you look at these numbers, okay, many are under the impression that this is a speculator's game, okay, or a whopping investment. But if that's the case, take a look at how much was actually sold. Okay, these guys, if these were investments, and you take a look at 363%, 902%, 2,103%, 270%, 22,135%, 874%, just under 3,000%, 14,000%, etc. If these were speculators, okay, if these were looking for financial investment, financial returns, these numbers have already blown out every single conventional asset class possible, and it's blown out for the time period, and the time period has been indexed because we are analytical. It's blown out most other tokens as well. Almost no sales. Okay, we went through and we tracked this, each transaction by transaction. Almost no sales. So, what kind of speculator or investor would engage and experience that level of profit quotation marks, and not sell? None. These are utility buyers. These are the type of customers, type of clients that we have been looking for, and the type that we look to sell our tokens to. So the next question is, these guys got in early, right? They recognize the value, but if they're not financial investors, they're not speculators, then what in the world are they going to do with these tokens? I'm glad you asked. In case you didn't ask, I decided to prompt. Let's go in and take a look at the world as we know it. This is PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, okay? Global assets under management set to rise to $145 trillion by 2018 now, okay? Basically, global asset management is a very, very, very large and significant industry, as you can see, okay? Let's, we don't know what it's at now. Let's just pick 2016, but to 2020, it's supposed to go up to 111 trillion. In 2016, it was a 4.9 trillion. Okay, big money in global asset management. But there are other trends going. So let's take a look at what other trends we have. Hedge fund investors, question 2 and 20 fees. So anybody who knows or doesn't know the hedge fund industry, the stated historical cost was 2% management fee of all assets under management and a 20% incentive fee or performance fee. So if you gave a hedge fund $1 million, they would charge you $20,000 just because, and then they charge you 20% of all profits, if any. That's rather expensive. Eventually, clients caught on, and fund managers are criticized for focusing on management rather than performance fees. You see, because most hedge funds are becoming asset gatherers, right, and asset managers versus performers. The reason why you go into a hedge fund is because you want to make, above normal returns, even if you have to take above normal risk, okay? Hedge fund managers realize that it's safer to become an asset gatherer, like a hunter-gatherer, gathering nuts and berries and sitting on them versus taking the risk and going after a wild boar, right? Which are dangerous and you can often miss. So clients, if they wanted nuts and gatherers, they go into mutual funds or much more staid investment vehicles, of course, with a much lower price. But instead, they want to go for wild boar hunters, for the big game hunters. But the big game hunters are taking too much risk. So when you do get that 20% return, often that 20% return comes from leverage beta. Let's just buy Apple and lever up, okay? And then you get 20% of whatever gains. But the problem is anybody can do that. Why would you pay 2 and 20 to buy leverage beta on Apple? So that's a quick synopsis, right? A little hard hitting, but objective and honest in my perspective of the hedge fund industry. You take a look at the other articles and you see a similar trend. Hedge fund fees take a trend. traditional 2 and 20 becoming outdated as managers seek to keep investors happy. You know, you can charge whatever you want. The best way to keep an investor happy is to make them money, right? Irrespective of what you charge. A smart investor will pay 50% performance fees if they outperformed everybody else net of fees at the end of the story. But the problem is that that's not what's happening. Go to the next article. Here's why hedge funds around the world are cutting their fees. Okay? Same thing. You know, I'm not going to pick any individual hedge funds, but long story short, you know, the hedge funds are charging big game fees, but they're getting hunter and gatherer returns. Okay, so what we proposed at Veritasium was to do peer-to-peer over-the-counter transactions, where instead of putting your capital or your assets into a centralized pool where everybody gets to participate, and you have a hedge fund manager pick cream off the top, usually for leverage beta often, okay, and not even match or beat their benchmarks. We say we have expert research. This expert research is fed into our financial machine, and our financial machine allows you to participate dynamically and interactively into that research. This is called the VEDIR, Veritasium's autonomous, distributed, interactive research. Give you an example of what the VEDIR would look like. If you remember, in November 8th, I created a sample portfolio of digital assets. Okay, I put $1.8 million of our own capital. I put $1.8 million of our own capital into that beta in November 8th. It is now January 2nd. This is that same portfolio, except for almost a goal. So let's take $4,000 out. That $1.8 million is now $7 million, 6.986186. It was actually $7 million a minute or two ago. And now that AM has reminded me, I just want to go off this story. So $1.8 million for November 8th to January 2nd at $7 million. Strong return. That return would be a blockbuster for any fund on an annual basis, right? This is not even quarterly, okay? Now, there's a lot more to go through this. I know a lot of those in the asset management industry are going to say, but, risk this, volatility that, et cetera, et cetera. Let's get to that. But before we get to that, I have 256 people online. Everybody hit the like button now, okay? Please. Everybody hit the share button. Get this along to everybody else, okay? And if you're not a subscriber, everybody hit the subscribe button. Let's get everything going. Let's get more people on board. I'm going to drop science here. It's going to be some heavy stuff, okay? So that big game, 1.8 million to 7 million, okay? Asset managers, hedge fund managers, particularly, asset management clients or hedge fund management clients, particularly those clients who are looking for big game hunters, okay? They're looking for those guys going after the wild boar, okay? Going after the big dangerous game, not the hunter-gatherers looking for picking up nuts and berries and growing grains, but the big game hunters. That's what they're looking for. If you take a look now, you're back to over 7 million right there. That's what they're taking. This is what they're going after. You have a lot of naysayers in the legacy industry. The CEOs of big investment banks. I don't want to mention whose name rhymes with mine, but you know what I'm talking about. You have the traditional, you have the big investment banks down the street. You have, we're in Times Square. You know who they are, no need to call out names. They say Bitcoin may go to zero. They're focusing on Bitcoin. Number one, that major focus on Bitcoin shows a lack of understanding of the industry because Bitcoin is already a has-been, but Bitcoin has gotten the media attention. But if they understood this and they understood what they were doing, they'd be in most of these assets, okay? They actually have no choice. Sooner or later, all of that institutional deal flow, all that institutional interest and capital is going to flow into these digital assets because hedge fund managers now are deciding to cut fees versus boosting performance. They're having a problem boosting performance. It's obvious they're having a problem boosting performance because if they didn't, they wouldn't be cutting fees. Simple as that. And they wouldn't have to cut fees because customers and clients would be happy. So what we've decided to do was to create a do-it-yourself system for the customers and clients. Okay, you don't have to do your own research, right? It's not a trading facility. This is a facility where you can participate in our research in an interactive perspective. And I gave a live performance of what it looks like. We've also been selling research. Our research is one of a kind. Okay, we have an understanding of this space that I don't think any investment bank or shop or similar shop has. And I'm not putting them down. Most of them either don't understand the space or have a perverse incentive to go in this or not to stay out of the space. And that's the way it is until it's not. So that being said, let's take a look at what this looks like. Okay, so we come over here, and this is the actual VEDIR. The actual VEDIR is running. It runs 24 hours non-stop. Okay, this is the sample portfolio within the actual beta. This is a private beta that select large Veritasium clients and customers are testing right now. Okay, you can see they're testing it. You can see a bucket was created 17 minutes ago. OMG tokens were sold an hour ago. VERI tokens were bought. PPT tokens were bought. Populist, OMG. So you can see the VEDIR is going, and the VEDIR is attempting to give access, okay, to asset exposure and create value through its own research. Okay, and this research is purchased from us and potentially in the future from other research providers if they pass muster. This is the future of this. Okay, so hedge funds with 2 and 20 and 1 and 10. The VEDIR charges flat fees. The VEDIR doesn't have active managers. The VEDIR is not even a fund. It is interactive research. Okay, it is basically do it yourself for the end user on a peer-to-peer basis. So back to my original comments now. We were discussing actual VERI tokens. Okay, and when VERI first came out, many didn't know what VERI was. Okay, and when you look at things such as what appears to be price appreciation, is basically just retail pricing of our fees and services, and they see these large numbers like 22,135%. Okay, and they get confused and they think that this is some type of financial investment and speculation. What it really is getting on the ground floor of peer-to-peer decentralized value access. Okay, you get on the ground floor of that $120 trillion market. I forget what it was, $111 trillion, $89 trillion, etc. That was the old way of doing things, the legacy way of doing things, right? As we progress into the 21st century, this is the new way of doing things. Now, imagine getting in the technology of the internet in 1993 and 1992, right? Everybody poo-pooed the internet, said it was only for child porn and whoever, nerds and propeller heads, etc. And of course, many, many badmouth things that they don't understand. It takes time for understanding to develop. Once understanding develops, then it takes time for adoption, particularly mass adoption. Now, nobody does anything without the internet. You're considered a fool. You think that the internet was a scam or a Ponzi scheme, etc. Right? Give this technology less than a few years. As a matter of fact, I think 2018 is going to be a very, very strong year for Veritasium, VERIs, the VEDIR, and our other financial machines. And even further, we're starting political machines. We're going to launch a political machine next month in February using VEDIRs. Okay, this is the way to go, and getting in on the infrastructure, owning the tokens. The tokens are our prepaid fees for our products and services. So if you have a VERI token, you have one chunk of the prepaid fees for our products and services, of which our financial machines only work with VERI. So those guys that got in early, they got on the ground floor. They got on the ground floor the opportunity to participate in the infrastructure of value exchange, value exposure to the future. They're not speculating. It's not like a stock going up and down or like other tokens that you buy hoping that you buy low, sell high. What they did was they bought during a period of mass ignorance. It sounds bad, but most people didn't understand what this was. And then as the understanding starts to develop, okay, and as more people realize what's going on, adoption increases. As adoption increases, use increases. When you increase the use of a utility token, you create value, both for yourself and for the users of the token. As you create value, you create more demand for the token. More demand for the token creates more use of the token, which creates more value, which creates more demand. Metcalfe law, network effect. I try very hard to explain the utility value of VERI. Okay, I understand the temptation to look in the wrong direction when you see a big number. Don't. You've never heard me, never heard Veritasium say that they're pushing investments, they're selling securities. We're not. We're creating and pushing the infrastructure for the new world. Okay? You thought the internet was monumental. You've seen nothing yet. And the internet is the pushing of information packets back and forth. Veritasium is a pushing of value back and forth. So let me take some questions. I have 370 people online, but only 230 likes. So hopefully nobody understood me. So let me just try it again. Everybody hit the like button. Let's get at least 371 likes. Everybody please hit that share button. Let's pass it on to everybody. Share it. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, etc. And subscribe if you're not there. M. Cox. Hi Reggie, I'm still waiting on a response on an email for OTC sale. Okay, the holidays just passed. I'm a family man. I actually do celebrate Christmas and spend time with my family. Please send the email again. Okay, we're calling an OTC sale. Send it right now. I will get to it by the end of the day or tomorrow. I promise you. I'll try very hard to. Reggie, when can we get VERI on other exchanges? Again, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a small, medium-sized businessman. I'm not an exchange. I don't control the exchanges. If for whatever reason they don't want to list us, that's a personal private decision. I have very little to do with that. Okay, but Veritasium will have many attributes that I think can mollify, if not negate, the lack of being on an exchange. Thanks again for having lunch at the Hunt and Fish Club. You're very welcome, my friend. Explaining how to go from crypto purchases to using VEDA. I could possibly do that, but I can't do that in this Q&A video. So please ask the users. The Telegram chat group on Veritasium. There's one that's written with trash and spam, but there's one that's very active. It's a smaller one. Those guys are very smart. They understand Veritasium, at least some of them do. Feel free to join Telegram and ask. You can also go to the Bitcoin Talk forum, which is not that active, but there are a few guys there who really understand it. Okay, we're not running our own social media platform, Q&A, just yet, because there's a lot of upkeep involved. You know, we still have a few of the fraudsters plus spam, etc. What exchange does VEDA buy the tokens from? There are several sources that it plans to buy from. I don't want to list those right now. There's always the potential for the attempt to front run. We don't want to do that. We're trying to code in proofs against that. Can't really make it foolproof, but we're trying to put logic and code in that will negate that as much as possible. But there's no use. There's a reason to tell you what exchanges they sell from, because it gets with the best price it can get. Okay. Hello from New Zealand, where I am on holiday. Crypto Rich, you okay? Awesome, awesome. How do we program our own assets for you to place in the VEDA? That will come in soon. You will have to have VERI, of course. I have the VEDA look at and analyze the assets. And if it passes muster from the VEDA's perspective, you put in additional VERI and the VEDA will purchase it or list it. That is a work in progress right now. First, we want to get it up and running in the public. So between this week, next week, hopefully worst case scenario, the week thereafter, we will have a public version of the beta, a public beta of the VEDA out, and everybody can work on it and bang on it. And I want everybody to bang on it. I want widespread usability issues from a larger audience. I want people to try and break it. If you can crack it, okay? I want it to be user-friendly for a layperson, and I want it to be as bulletproof as possible. And of course, there will be a cap and limit to the amount of assets that can be put into the VEDA, because it is a beta, and we don't want anybody losing anything that they can't afford to lose, okay? Beta test, beta test, beta test. Where does the VERI go when the bucket is sold on VEDA? The VERI comes back to Veritasium. Will your marketing team create an animated video? Most likely, they will. Great job. I've been following you for quite a while. I'm most excited about Economic Rant. I'm excited about all this, but I'm biased, of course. Reggie, how to buy cryptos and then get into VEDAs. We're going to have someone go through all that. VEDA obtains the crypto tokens from exchanges and over-the-counter purchases as well. Reggie, break it down. What is Veritasium disrupting? Veritasium is disrupting any gatekeeper, okay, or authoritative third party that stands in between, adds friction to, or profits from an exchange between two other individuals, yet does not add the requisite value to deserve said profit. So basically, anybody who makes money they don't deserve in a transaction between two parties is what would be disrupted by the VEDIR. How do we get into the VEDIR system? Okay, I've already answered that. Will there be a wallet? No, we don't do wallets. You know, the VEDIR will have its own address, and you'd have address to get in and out of VEDIR, but we don't do wallets. We don't do wallets, we don't do blockchains. That's not our business. Need to be available on different exchanges. It's currently available on, if you go to coinmarketcap.com, type in Veritasium and look at markets, you could just get to see who's, what exchanges would have VERI, if any. How long do reports last for? You know, that's a subjective question. You know, the information is there and it gets stale depending on your level of knowledge and ability to understand it and what happens to the individual subject. Does VERI have KYC requirements? That's a difficult question. You know, I don't believe so, but I'm not authority on the topic. I believe this is simply software. But we are looking into KYC from a programmatic perspective and from other perspectives as well. Okay, that's a conversation we need to have with you know, those in power. Is there any video that shows how to use a platform? Not yet, but the platform is not released, so that said video would be a little premature. Once we release it, we will have videos to walk everybody through it and try and get as much information out as possible to have people as familiar with it as possible. How many VERIs required to run the beta? Not many. The beta, the private beta, caps it at 0.1 VERI, so it's a cap. But that cap is small and minimal, and that cap is, again, to enforce the warning that you should not put large amounts of assets into a beta program because it's a beta program. Congratulations for Mango's running. I definitely do appreciate it. All the hard work is paying off. It looks like it. All of it's not paying off yet, but things are looking up. Going from pure ignorance and trust to a much better understanding of VERI. Okay, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Top Notch. So we explain what this means to VERI holder under 75 VERI. Okay, it all depends on your abilities and what you're able to do. Please understand that the this is not passive activity. This is active activity. When you enter into a VEDIR, you have to actively put in parameters. Okay, let's walk through it right quick. So if let's suppose you walk into the situation and you do not have your own VERI. Okay, this is a VERI rental facility. You click get VERI tokens. Okay, you can find there's only one offer. You click, or you double click this. After you click the accept, which is the shopping cart, here's information to tell you before clicking accept. Make sure you pay attention to what you're doing. Okay, you're about to submit an order to Veritasium Rent app. By confirming this, blah, 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 tells you what's going on. You click continue. And then you come up to the MetaMask dialog. You click submit, and MetaMask sends off the purchase, to rent the VERI and to gain your requisite portion of exposure in the VEDIR. So it purchases that amount, it told you the amount. I wasn't paying attention. Let's suppose it told you to purchase, you know, $7,000 worth of exposure. Okay, so you'll get $7,000 worth of exposure out of this portfolio, and it will then create a bucket for you and buy the requisite amount of tokens for you. Okay, let's suppose that you currently have your own VERI. You're looking to rent the VERI out. So you go back to the VERI Renter app. Here it says offer VERI tokens, and these are recent rentals that have occurred. Okay, you want to rent your own tokens, you go click the plus, comes with a dialog, you say you want to rent one VERI token, which gives you $86,990 worth of exposure. Okay, but because this is a beta, it's limited to a much smaller amount. So you want to rent 0.01. Okay, VERI tokens, which gives you $869 of exposure. That's based upon a 1-to-100 ratio, with ETH being $869. Go save. You want 10% return ROI as a price for the VERI that you rent. We're gonna do this for 34 hours with an expiration of never, but we're gonna expire this in 36 hours. Click submit. You're about to submit an order to VeRiTasium Rent app. It gives you, the disclaimers and things that you need to know, closed exposures, etc. You click OK. Okay, we're going to reduce the gas price significantly on this. Okay. Just say 8 Guay, hit submit. And what I did was I just rented a VERI. Okay, I submitted my own VERI out of my own portfolio, right, to the rental app. Okay, and then it will appear as a VERI to be rented after it goes through the system. If it goes through, I think the Ethereum blockchain is 14 seconds per block. So you take 1, 2, 3 blocks before it enters the system. Okay, now we're going to the exposure beta. Okay, if you have your own VERI and you have your own ETH and you want to go in and you simply want to purchase exposure directly, okay, you can do so. Open exposure, say 0.01 VERI, which gives you $868.92 of exposure. You want to buy this exposure to the portfolio. You're basically purchasing exposure to the research portfolio, which is the portfolio that is found or recommended by the research that the beta purchased. And you want to do this again for, let's say, 29 hours. Okay, you could pick days or hours, it's up to you. Say it's 29 hours, right? You click submit. This is one slight bug for whatever reason. So you put the same amount in. Yeah, 0.01 VERI for 29 hours. Okay, you click submit. Again, it brings you up. You have a max transmission fee of 20 Guay. We're going to reduce that to 9 Guay. You click submit. Now what we just did was we purchased or requested to purchase exposure to the dynamic research portfolio. And here you have that request right here, 0.01 VERI, which purchased $868.50 worth of exposure, funded in Ethereum for 1 day, 5 hours, with a status of pending. And of course, that pending status will be an open status once it's went through the Ethereum blockchain. In the meantime, you see these are closed exposures, okay? And you see the ROI and the settlement amount. Whenever, because there are fees that are involved and the fees are taken up front, you're almost, unless you're super duper lucky, guaranteed to have a negative ROI, because if you put something in for 20 hours and you have to take fees out, of course it takes time for that exposure to be, those fees to be recouped. So we have short timelines, and your amount of exposure is limited to, I think, 7 days max. And again, because this is a beta. When we go to the public beta, we're going to lift both the amount of assets that are allowed to go in and the time allowed for the exposure. It's not going to be unlimited. It's not even going to be a lot, but it's going to be lifted past this because we want people to be able to use the system enough to pull out any additional bugs. Here we have this recent exposure that was closed but not settled. So we simply click settle. Okay, we're back to the MetaMask. All right, we drop this to 9 Guay for a max. Remember, that's the maximum transaction fee, not necessarily transaction fee. You click submit, and now that closed exposure is settling. What it means by settling is it's taking the closed exposure and it's putting it back into your wallet. In this particular case, the wallet is a MetaMask plugin. So since we're using MetaMask, this is not available on mobile platforms yet. so we can't do Android and iOS, but we are working on that. Okay, for right now, this is desktop only, or if you have an emulator running off your Android, you can do that as well. And this is it in a nutshell. Here we have notifications, latest notifications, exposure closed 3 days ago, etc. These are notifications for this particular account. But if you go into the actual VEDIR, you see the activity of the entire VEDIR as it loads. And one thing one should never, ever do is a live demo, but I have so much confidence in our stuff that I go on YouTube Live and I run this VEDIR app back and forth. And you see everything works smoothly. Bucket created 36 minutes ago for 1F, and you can see all the activity here. This is for the entire VEDIR. The other portion is for the specific account, and you have the flexibility of expressing this in any currency you want. Currently, everything's been expressed in US dollars. You can express everything in F as you switch. Okay, you see? You can express everything in B. Okay, so I happen to have been using a cell phone to do this live video. And of course, with a cell phone, we actually get phone calls, so pardon me. So I'm about to close it down anyway, but I was showing how you have the currency translation in the interface. So you can express everything as BTC, Bitcoin. You can express it as F, see it change, US dollars, and you can do other fiat currencies as well. So you have CNY, renminbi, you have yen, and you have pounds and euros. Okay, cool stuff. Cool stuff. Okay, this is in private beta. We're looking hopefully by the end of the week. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Remember, hopefully, this goes to public beta by the end of this week. If not by the end of this week, then obviously it's going to be after the end of this week. And after the public beta, we're also going to do a security audit. If things go well, then we do a release. And the release is going to lift the caps to the amount of assets that go in and the amount of time significantly, but not, I don't know. We'll see if it's lifted, if they will still have a cap on, or if we eliminate caps in totality. We shall see. Okay. We'll also, hopefully, we'll announce our political VEDIR next month. Okay, announce it, not release it. That's going to be a showstopper. Okay, that's going to define, right? That's going to define disruption. You see, because many of the areas that the financial VEDIR, the financial machine, and its political machine, the political VEDIR, will be addressing, the actors in these areas either don't believe this technology is real, or at best are still focusing on things like Bitcoin. Okay, significant lessons will be taught. Okay, thank you very much. It's a very strong community. I hope this was worthwhile, and I need for everybody to consume the entire message, okay, that this video tried to communicate. So I don't want everybody saying, okay, Reggie's bragging about returns on VERI. Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, I'm asking everybody to disregard those because they're not truly returns. It's just a matter of pricing fluctuation. What I want everybody to focus on is the reality of the VEDIR. This is real. This is being used right now. We synthetically and artificially contain the beta market. Okay, we have a few changes and upgrades and fixes and bugs. We're going to release it to a public beta, and you'll see it working. And then after that, it's released into the wild for the public. For this to compete, this does not actually compete with asset managers and hedge funds, etc. What it does is it allows users to empower themselves directly. Okay. On that note, I'm going to sign off. Sayonara. Okay. And please forward this video, share it, and I would like everybody to become a VeRi client and customer. Okay? Peace.